You're listening to the Sass Says podcast. I'm your host, Christy Rocha, also known as Sass. I identify as a woman, a wife, and a mother. That should tell you a lot already. And over the last few years, I've learned the value of talk therapy. I have seen how my inner work not only enhances my own well-being, but also my marriage, my parenting, my relationships. And in fact, you wouldn't be hearing this right now if it weren't for the work I've done. My mission is to debunk the misconceptions and stigmas around what therapy is and who it's for. Let's normalize working on our mental health and seeking help when needed. We've all heard of self-care, self-help, and self-love, but do you often wonder how to actually make it all happen? I do. You'll hear strategy-based conversations with professionals, as well as inspiring and validating stories from women who are just like you and me. Think of this podcast as the weekly therapy sessions you didn't know you needed, with a dash of sass, a lot of vulnerability, and me, relentlessly asking, but how? Hello, how are you? I have a treat and something a little different for you today. My guests today are Stacy and Markus Naugle. Stacy and Markus are a connection I made through G-Son, Dr. J from episode 44, and I don't know if you're noticing, but Markus is the first guy on the show. Yeah, I don't know, it's just not something I did, but you know, when G-Son puts you in touch with someone, you go with it, and I am so glad I did. This husband and wife team are high-performance health consultants who utilize potent diet and lifestyle enhancements to help excellence-driven people, aka us, generate the vitality necessary to fuel sustained success in their professional and personal lives without burning out. And I read that kind of slowly because there are so many important words in that sentence that relate to me, and I'm sure they do to you too. So their 6 pillars of health methodology focus on quick-to-implement action steps that are easily integrated into busy schedules. They've proven their process through 3 decades of success, helping thousands of people excel in business, do more of what they love, and establish health-positive family cultures by implementing their strategies. And you're going to learn a little bit more about them. They're just one of those people that you meet and you're like, whoa, you're so interesting. They've climbed mountains, they're yoga teachers, they travel the world. They're just really, really cool people, and they have a lot of interesting information, including a lot of information about what's called the blue zones of health. So this is all new to me. It's going to be new to you, but basically the blue zones of health are where, you know what, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going to let them tell you, but they're the healthiest people on the planet, and it's Stacy and Markus are going to tell us how we take what they're doing and implement it in our own lives. We talk about gut health and the connection to serotonin and mental health. We talk about the type of diet that fuels our brain, how to incorporate and enhance what you're already eating to include the foods that your brain likes, and so much more. Their wealth of knowledge. Here are Stacy and Markus. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Markus. So nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, this is so relevant for me. I was just having a conversation this morning with my husband about exactly this, what we're about to get into, and not knowing where to start. I feel like in the last year or so, and maybe this is like the law of attraction, but I just feel overwhelmed with information, and it's like all coming at me like, oh, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. When I say it, I just mean that like optimal health, right? Yeah. And just feeling good every day. And well, I don't know about every day. You can tell me if that's possible, but it's just, I go through such waves throughout my month, and I know it's tied to my cycle of just I don't feel good, and then I feel great, and it's almost like manic and depressive, and it's like very intense. So anyway, I know we're going to get into it. I first want to know, I guess, why? Like, why are you guys doing this? How did you get into it? The work. Why do the work?
We've been interested in health and how life works our whole lives. And we both studied biological sciences in college, and we're truth seekers in that way. We want to understand why, we want to understand how, and both of us were athletes. Both of us are super curious people, and so optimal functioning, being able to come to life with our A game every day was important to both of us before we even recognized, that was a thing for us. It just is sort of how we're made. Mm-hmm. And so independently, we each took our own paths to experimenting and going, well, if I do this, how do I feel? And if I do this, how do I feel? And over the last 30 years, because we're both in our 50s now, and over the last 30 years, we've gone down many, many pathways and, dug through those massive piles of nutritional information and what the best practices are, and emerged, sort of on cruise with, what we've discovered and what we've distilled it down to, because we really like to try to keep it simple. Life is complex enough. So that's, yeah.
And I think to your point, self-awareness and learning about yourself is really important. There is more information than we've ever had before in the information age. And a lot of it is really important. Some of it's completely fictitious, and trying to vet, what is valid, what isn't valid, what should I maybe try to adopt or follow it or incorporate into my lifestyle or into my being can be challenging. But all the answers you need are within yourself. You have to ask the right questions to find out what those answers are. And I think we spent a lot of time. We just went into a high school and talked to our graduating high school class and talked about our careers. We've worked in corporate America. We've been entrepreneurs. We've started NGOs. We've climbed Kilimanjaro. We've dived down to 150 feet in the sea. All of that, can sound perhaps a little self-serving, but the point of that is trying to find out who you are by looking for the edges of your physical capacity, by looking for the edges of your mental and emotional capacity, challenging yourself intellectually. And when you do different things in different environments with different people and see how you respond, especially when you're changing that backdrop by country, by color of skin, by gender, and you see consistently who you are, that can be very powerful, and helping you to understand where your edges exist and where you might have some work to do too, where the places that have the most energy, whether that's a little bit of fearful energy or that's something that really works for you. Those are very critical data points for helping you to have a self-awareness and then perhaps a self-actualization for a different pattern that brings about a more desirable homeostasis or way of being that works for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So just so we're on a page here, I am not a truth seeker in that I don't want to do all the research. And maybe that's just a response to the season of life that I'm in, but just getting through the day is enough for me.
So, get out of bed, check.
Yes, there's a smile on my face today. Yep. We're good, so I appreciate that there are people out there like you who will do that will dive into the sea and climb the mountains and do all of that for us, because it sounds like another life for me. I would need a second life to do that. But
well, we also have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old that need fed 3 times a day and to go
okay.
And,
you got it.
That we're running, and we have all the, I think, dare I use the word normal, because normal is always a moving target, but we have the stresses and the opportunities that I think most people do these days, especially in interesting times on planet Earth, that we've got to check a lot of boxes each day too to feel like we're successful, because we're not just, there are people depending on us, 2 little ones in our household, and we've got a couple of grown daughters too that are off doing their thing as well. But and so we're very similar. We're very aware of checking those boxes. And some days you wake up and the kids got fed and you got the thing done that you needed to get done, and it wasn't your best day and it wasn't pretty, and maybe you weren't even happy for part of it, but it's done.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. The other thing that came to mind as you were talking about finding the edge and pushing the edge. I feel like, that as a whole, as a society, we kind of saw an edge over the last few years, right? With the pandemic, like people were pushed in ways that never could have imagined being pushed to. And I think that most of us are still trying to catch our breath. We're still trying to recover.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're looking for our new normal, our new homeostatic point. And I think, that point of perfection where we feel like, all right, things are all right, is one point, and we kind of cruise through it and around it. And, it's not a point that we ever rest on. But through the pandemic, that point got moved way over here, and we're all looking for it so that we can start to orbit closer and closer to it and feel stable again.
Yeah. I'm so curious what I will personally and what as a collective we will think and feel like, 20, 30 years from now, looking back on this, because right now it just feels so heavy. It's so heavy still for me. And I think a lot of women in particular, moms, business owners, it's still so heavy. All right. So, okay. Let's get into it a bit.
All right.
You guys know me. I'm all about mental health. I'm all about the brain and taking care of it. Talk to me about the gut-brain connection and the work you do around all of that.
Great. Well, we're all about high performance, which includes energy, your focus, and your stamina. So brain is a big part of that. And we work a lot with entrepreneurs. So these are people who need to show up with that A game every day, because their business depends on them. So we like to really get into that. And what we eat affects how we feel. There's this whole mood food connection. And, we hear that out in the media these days. But interestingly, our gut bacteria, the number of bacteria we have in our gut outnumbers the human cells in our body by 3 to 1.
Okay.
Big numbers, right? I know, it's a little
feels
bit
like
crazy.
Something that like we should all know,
I know. And if you take the whole body, we have 10 times the bacteria in our body as human cells. So
right. Good to know.
I know.
Good start.
I know, we are more bacteria than humans, so we have to take care of them. We have a very symbiotic relationship with them. And the strains of bacteria that we have in our gut affect whether or not we develop cardiovascular disease. They affect whether we feel anxious or depressed, whether we have brain fog. They affect the nutrients that we can absorb. They even, certain bacteria affect whether we gain weight or have trouble losing weight. They really run a lot of the show of our bodies, and they affect how we can think and how we feel to a great extent. And so nourishing and taking care of those bacteria by giving them the kinds of foods they like, creating an environment that they like, they take good care of us. They produce neurotransmitters, they go up to our brain, the serotonin, the dopamine, those, feel good hormones. Our gut is responsible for producing most of the serotonin in our bodies. Like it's directly tied to our well-being, our mental, emotional health.
Okay. I've heard that before, but I told you, I didn't research it. So, all right, let's start with that. Are there, well, okay. All right. Would how someone navigate that, like how someone would learn more about the bacteria in their gut and all of it, is that going to differ person to person to an extent that you would need someone else's help to understand that? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, are there like pillars of understanding this, or is it like, you know what, your body's your body?
I think with many things diet related, that there are big picture things that apply to most people.
Okay.
And you can go out to the edges and you can find out, you can work with the doctor, go, here's the bacteria that you have in your gut. Here's the ones we want to emphasize, eat these foods every day, and those are sort of the edges. And that's not what we do. We want to help most people with the simplest, most potent thing possible.
Okay.
And we have studied a lot about the blue zones. Have you heard of blue zones of health around the world?
No.
There are 5 verified blue zones, and these are places that have the longest lived people on the planet, the most people over 100 who are in great health.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things that they have in common. And one of those is that they have a diverse gut bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some simple things that you can do. And, you know, we're all about simple, because if you aren't going to do them, it doesn't matter how effective they are. And if they aren't simple, we're not going to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And so our gut likes fiber, foods that are high in fiber. So in the blue zones, the people that are over 100, 95% of what they eat is plant-based. Mm-hmm. And they eat beans every day. They eat nuts most days. They mostly eat the food that's grown within 10 miles of where they live. And so they're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables too. And all of those contain a lot of fiber.
Okay.
So if you are wanting to feed your bacteria things that they like fiber. And so that's called a prebiotic. And we have probiotics as well. And that's when you put bacteria into your body in a pill form or in fermented foods. But the prebiotics are the foods that feed the bacteria, and fiber is what they like.
Okay. And now clarify for me.
Yes.
Fiber, is it a situation where, like, as soon as you said fiber, I think like Fiber One bars, like, is this, yeah. So, right. Like, we don't want to just be like scarfing down Fiber One bars, right? Like, we want to find it from real food, not processed food. That's what we're saying.
You know, absolutely. I think, and again, if you are taking this as a proxy, this National Geographic Blue Zone study that came out in 2007, and they've continued to monitor these places. There's one in Japan, there's one in Greece, there's one in Italy, there's one in Costa Rica, and then there's one in Southern California as well. If you look at what these people eat, they don't have the opportunity to buy the Fiber One bar. They're in places where there's not a lot of processed food. They're in places where they're probably growing a fair amount of their own food. And if they're not, probably not at 95 years of age or anyway, they're going to the market, you know, the local market, and they're buying locally grown food, as opposed to, you know, going to Costco or, you know, whatever large grocery store you might go to, where, you know, a fair amount, everything outside of the produce section basically is processed food. Right, and I think whether you look at processed meat or you look at processed anything, even processed plant-based food as well, that's being substituted for meat in some other cases, your nutritional value and your the red flags go up dramatically when you go from very simple, picked off the tree, pulled out of the ground food to highly processed packaged food that's been sitting on the shelf for, you know, can sit on the shelf for sometimes 6 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. And so again, in these blue zones, if you look at their diet, it is 95% fresh fruits and vegetables, but they are eating seafood, they are eating meat. They're just not eating, they eat meat more as an accoutrement, or more as a flavorizer, or more, it's not, they don't eat a 12-ounce steak as the focus of their meal for dinner. Right. It's used as it's used to flavor, it's used. And so, you know, that does a lot for your gut too. Red meat, especially highly processed red meat, which, you know, the World Health Organization just found 3 years ago, they classified highly processed red meat in the same level 1 carcinogen as cigarettes, meaning that it has the same likelihood to cause cancer as cigarettes do. And red meat overall is a class 2 carcinogen, which is probable. And so, you know, those are 2 culprits that if you're eating a lot of those, they're going to cause inflammation in your body. They're going to potentially, you know, trigger cascades that could lead to cancer, that can lead to all kinds of chronic inflammatory diseases. And cutting down on that and taking that out of your diet as much as possible, but more importantly, amping up fresh fruits and vegetables is going to cut down on the things that are not good for your gut bacteria, and it's going to provide the food that your good gut bacteria really likes. And so, you know, diet is a very important part of these blue zones, but there are other factors too. These people socialize. They feel like they're a part of a bigger community. They're not at home alone by themselves with their thoughts, which could be positive or negative, depending on our situation. And, they go like this throughout the course of the day, right? But overall, if your thoughts and your words and your deeds kind of create your reality and your character and your personality, the more we're thinking positive thoughts, the more we're with people that uplift us, the more that we're with and communicating with people that share common goals and people that want to support us. That helps our self-love and our self-acceptance and our self-appreciation process too. So knowing you're a part of something bigger and something bigger that's positive in these communities, they're very community-oriented people. They also move. They're not in a nursing home, perhaps, doing some puzzles or hooked up to things that we need sometimes later on in life. These people are walking down to the village and, they're having a cup of coffee at the local coffee store. And again, socializing with people, maybe the same people that they've socialized with for 50 years, because it's the same pattern and the same routine that they've had, which is a comfortable pattern to them too. And so now all those good neurotransmitters are not only coming from what we eat and from our good gut bacteria, but they're coming from, our happiness and communing with people that we know support us and love us. And they're also coming from exercise, which, most of us know what an endorphin rush is. If we've exercised or played a sport or, been active in any way, we oftentimes feel great, when we're done. And that endorphin rush, comes from movement. It comes from activity. And so, there's lots of ways to stimulate your mental health. Food is probably one of the most important parts of it, but being a part of something bigger and part of something social, making sure that you stay active. These are all part of, living a productive, healthy life that they found in the Blue Zone diets.
Okay. And I want to go back to what Stacy was talking about gut health. But before I do, I want to clarify with you, Markus, and say, and just make the point of, and I want you to make it, but I'm going to lead you into it where I'm going. Like, most of us don't live in the blue zones, and you're going to have, my audience is usually people in my similar situation. We've got little kids, we've got a business, we've got a lot going on. Take us off the ledge a little bit of, whoa, I can't completely overhaul my life.
Yep.
How do we implement some of these aspects in that simple daily way that's not going to overwhelm us?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. And it's a very individual question for everybody's individual. For every, some of us are in families, some of us are in partnerships, some of us have kids, we're at different ages. Some of us maybe go to an office now, less people than before, for sure. How you build community really, is very individualized. But for us, the first place that we start, because we share many of the same types of daily opportunities and challenges as well that you do, is with our family. And so our family is our nuclear, it's our nuclear community, if you will. And we eat all of our breakfasts and all of our dinners together. We may occasionally miss one for like a play or play practice or soccer or some after school activity, but seldom. And then we eat our 2 lunches on the weekends together as well. And so eating together as a nuclear family is a really important activity. From a socialization standpoint, from a positivity standpoint, from the ability to influence your kids' diet so that from the youngest age, they're moving themselves in the proper way of diet and health and well-being. And then I think, aside from that, we're in community right here, right now. And so we're having an open exchange, an honest exchange with, some of the things that we find that are valuable for us and things that are valuable for you too. We've built some trust, and and again, back to the earlier point, in the information age, it's really easy to get totally overwhelmed with all kinds of things, people, things, entities, courses telling you what to do. But the answers all are within yourself if we're asking the right questions. And I think that when you have this consistency, when you have people that consistently love you and want to support you and want you to be the best you, as well as me being the best me, and all of us being the best people that we can possibly be, that consistency and that constant exchange provides a fruitful environment to go deeper, to go higher, to get happier, to get more educated on who we are as individuals, using this trusted community as a backdrop. And so I think that your family is a great place to start. I think that after that, you're looking for people that are consistent in your life, extended family, coworkers. If you have coworkers, a lot of us, Stacy and I work from home, and we're best friends and life partners and all of that, but we have people that we meet along the path, like yourself, that then become part of our greater circle and our greater tribe. These people are very important. Oftentimes they're experts in their field in areas that we would like to know a lot more about too, but don't have the time to do the research and the time to really understand what are those nuggets, and more importantly, what are those action points that we can then incorporate into our lives to appreciate the benefits of it. So, I can come to somebody like you and understand your perspective on mental health and things that have worked for you and have worked for all of your clients, that have been tested, that have been vetted. And I don't have to go out like I might have done in my 20s and read 150 self-help books to look for, those couple of nuggets that I would like to have. And so I think, every interaction that we have is an opportunity to learn and to learn from the other person, but it's also critically important that it's an opportunity that we can learn about ourselves. And I think if you go into interactions with that perspective, I would like to know as much as I can about you, and you're going to teach me about me in the conversation that we have as well. It opens up a level of trust and helps deepen relationships that can become very meaningful and very satisfying and very healthy and necessary for health and well-being.
I really like that. I like the learning about me and talking to you. I dig that. And I think ultimately what I took out of that is the consistency piece, and that maybe consistency for a person today or this week or this month might not necessarily be that they can incorporate every aspect of a blue zone into their life every day, but they're consistently, maybe it's not every day they're moving, but it's consistent. It's every other, it's every 3 days, it's whatever works for their body. And that's what we're saying is, I just want to take away like the overwhelm. It's like, we don't have to all of a sudden implement and change our whole life, but we can stay consistent with what makes us feel good and what we have the capacity and bandwidth to do.
Yeah.
Right.
A good analogy. We've both been certified yoga instructors and taught yoga at parts of our lives. And we would have yoga students that might come once a week for an hour and a half class. And I would tell those students, they would be much better served if you're doing asana yoga, if you're doing postures and poses. Pick 3 poses that you are finding that are working for you, and do those 3 poses 10 to 15 minutes a day, 6 days a week. And you don't need to come to my class, and you can save money, because it's that consistency of showing up and training your mental body, your emotional body, and your physical body to expect that I'm going to have some self-care and self-love. I'm going to work at it right now, but I know that I care about me by making this commitment to one thing, these 3 postures. And so I think nobody can take a drink from a fire hose and survive. We all kind of need a little trickle. We need to focus on 1 or 2 things that we want to try to incorporate into our lives. And then we need to do them every day, because it's the repetitive process that helps them become part of who we are. If we only do them occasionally, well, it's going to have some value for sure if they're valuable things to be doing, but it's going to be very hard to develop the patterns, and it's going to be very hard for your physiology to incorporate this new way of being, to then make it become literally a part of who you are. And so I think you're spot on in that way. And I think that, sometimes it's the intention with which we go through our lives too. I might be accused of having, adult ADHD because I like to go do all of these crazy things. But if you're doing them with the mindset of, I'm trying to learn about myself and learn about where my edges are, as opposed to run away from who I am, it's a very different mindset. It's two different sides of the same coin, right?
And it might look the same from the outside, from my perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. All right. So Stacy, go back, because all of this is coming to that point of optimal, health and brain function, and for me, the mental health and serotonin and all of that. So what else does our gut like? We've got fiber. What else does the gut, was that the bacteria, or yeah. What else does it like?
Yeah.
And what else do we want to do?
The other thing that we want to do is we want to eat across a broad variety of different foods.
Okay.
They've found worldwide that people that are the healthiest people have a very diverse gut biome. And in a society where antibiotics are handed out, often like candy, where a lot of our animal-based foods have antibiotics in them, we are decreasing the number of strains of bacteria in our gut. But when we eat across a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, our gut bacteria starts to diversify. And that allows us to have a robust and healthy gut biome so that it can do the things that we want it to do, like support our mental, emotional health. So variety, high fiber, those are the two takeaways.
Okay.
And, variety can be easy too. Like, we want to make it simple. We, in our programs, we focus on 3-minute miracles. What can you do to enhance what you're already doing, rather than add like, I have to do this now, and now I have to do this. It's like, how can I just make what I'm doing better?
So that might be like adding a piece of fruit to a meal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And
I'm like, tell me.
Yeah. So
I'm like so intense.
Here's an easy one. Eat across a rainbow. So when you're going shopping and you're in the produce section, you're looking at fruit, pick a fruit of every color. When you're looking at the vegetables, pick a vegetable of every color. And then that without having to analyze everything and figure out how many micrograms of this or that you need, you don't have to do it. You can go, if I'm eating every color of fruit and vegetable, I know that I'm getting every antioxidant. I know that I'm getting most of my vitamins and minerals. Like it's like I'm doing, 80-90% pretty good because I'm eating a rainbow. Yeah. Easy.
Can I tell you that something that's crazy that I've done over the last few years is, as soon as my oldest, my 4-year-old, started eating fruit, so maybe 2 years ago, whatever that is, and vegetables, all of a sudden in my brain, this happened so subconsciously that those foods in our house became for her. And I stopped. It happened mostly with fruit. I stopped eating fruit because they became her foods. And it was like, I think I had this fear of, if I eat it, then there won't be any left. And then she's going to freak out and blah, blah, blah. But it was such a subconscious thing that happened. Like, and I've had to really work at, when I open the fridge and I'm hungry and go, you know what? Oh, there's apples here. Oh, there's pears. It's like, to me, those became kid food. It's so bizarre to me. It's so crazy. Yeah. All right. So, okay. Are there particular foods? Are there particular nutrients and things with the serotonin? Like, does serotonin like certain foods? Or is it more about the bacteria and just kind of keeping all of that in check?
Yes. How many women do you know who don't like chocolate?
Not many.
Yeah. Chocolate helps produce serotonin.
Okay.
So there you go. And so like the enhancement that you want to add to that, because, okay, so you eat chocolate, but let's make it chocolate that helps promote high performance for you. So go for dark chocolate because it has a lot more of the components that you want. It has nitric oxide, it has anti-inflammatories, it has antioxidants, it promotes serotonin. But if you're eating milk chocolate or chocolate that is less than 70%, you're going for the over 70% dark chocolate, then you're going to get those things that you want. And also Dutch chocolate. So if you see like baking chocolate, that's processed. It has all the things you want are gone from the chocolate.
Okay.
So it really is 75% dark or more. And then it will be a health food instead of a vice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of our favorite recipes, and one of the boys' favorite recipes that they always request for their birthdays and for lunches and things, is we have a chocolate pie. It's 4 ingredients. It's melted dark chocolate. It's maple syrup, a little bit of vanilla, and tofu. And so now we've added tofu to our chocolate, and we're getting all of that, wonderful serotonin production. But now we've got a whole bunch of protein in there too,
high protein,
right? And we can take that pudding and we can add some bananas to it. We can add some walnuts to it. We can add some strawberries and blueberries to it. And now we've got, 2 or 3 different fruits that we've got in there that are 2 or 3 different colors. And we've got some nuts that we've added too, which are again going to promote bring some different vitamins and minerals into it. And all of a sudden we've taken chocolate, which we really like, and we've made a very simple recipe that you can gin up in 15 minutes and added a few ingredients to it. And now I've got a breakfast. If I want to make it as a breakfast, I can add granola. I can take it as a supplement for a lunch, that pudding that goes along with whatever else they have. I can make a nice I can make a nice nut crust with some ginger snaps and chuck it in the oven and cook that pie crust up and fill it up and let it sit overnight. And I've got an awesome chocolate tofu pie that we've taken so many places, and we ask people, what's in this pie? Tell us what's in this pie. And nobody guesses tofu.
It's like chocolate marshmallow cream, like especially the next day when it sets up a little more. Like, it's really just awesome.
And so the point is, now we've taken chocolate, which we know is good for serotonin production, which we know is good for our mental health, and we've added a few ingredients to it that makes it flexible for how and when we eat it. And it also increases the nutritional value of it as well. And it didn't take us an hour in the kitchen, because who has an hour in the kitchen really when it comes right down to it?
Right.
And so we're looking for quick, simple, some people might say cheating, but it's not cheating. It's just quick, simple adds and ways of incorporating chia seeds or flax seeds or all kinds of things that are really good for specific B vitamins. I'll let Stacy talk about B vitamins too, and how that's good for your mental health as well. But oftentimes we're just looking for what's that additional thing that we can add that will make our food a superfood when it comes to, mental health and then overall health and well-being too.
And we're coming into summer, and we have little kids. A lot of your audience has little kids. Take the chocolate tofu pudding and freeze it and make chocolate pudding pops.
Right.
And then your kids like, here's your sweet treat. And they're not even very sweet, but go outside and they're getting heaps of protein. They're getting fiber. It's really, if you analyze the nutrition, and that recipe is on our website, dairy free.
I was going to say, you have recipes on your website, right?
Yeah.
But
you're sending them out with a meal.
Right.
I mean, if it doesn't have fruit or those kinds of things, you're missing out on an aspect of what we would want to add to it. But my gosh, it's so much better than a chocolate popsicle.
Yeah.
That's packed with sugar, and it has so much less protein and so much less nutrition in it. So that's one of the ways. It's like, just enhance. You want to send them with a treat, enhance it and make it something that's really supportive without much effort.
Yeah. And I did intend on asking you about kids and your kids and how to help mine, but I think what's feeling stronger for me are a couple of things that I first just want to brain dump onto you, and if anyone grabs you or you have thoughts, run with it. The first is that the two of you are vegans. I was a vegan for a minute, maybe about a year, because I watched that documentary, whatever it was, a couple of years ago. I can't remember what the
Forks over knives.
Forks over knives. That's the one. Oh boy, that sent me. And I did about a year. But ultimately, I stopped because I found that I was cooking for myself, cooking for my husband, and cooking for my kids. And
no go.
Oh man. And it just became too much. And then
Sure.
In the pandemic, when my husband was home, I had a newborn 2 weeks before the world shut down. So he ended up doing a lot of the cooking, which he's a great cook, but he's not a vegan cook. And it just felt too hard
Yeah.
to keep up for me. But it's something that's always there, something
Mhm.
that's always kind of in the back of my mind. And it's definitely changed how I view, I think Marcus said earlier, it's like, I don't need a big piece of meat every time I sit down for dinner. It's changed how I view certain
Mm.
things. And so I guess that's the first thing of like how and why with the veganism and kind of making it work. And also you mentioned B vitamins, which was always something that anytime someone heard I was vegan, they're like, how do you get your B vitamin? Like, it's just so annoying. And I would love for you to just like squash that for me.
You ask them how they get their B vitamins?
Oh, I know. That's a good one. That's
There
a
you
good
go.
one. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, and the other thing that is just constantly on my mind is the aspect of weight. I have spent a lot of time over the last few years sort of deconstructing every belief that I've had about diet culture and body image and
Mhm.
deep diving that. And it's so obviously related to food and how I view food and all of the things. And I'm curious with the work that you do when it comes to weight. And I particularly would like to lose weight. It's
Mhm.
hard for me to even talk about and not because it's too vulnerable, but because I don't even, I still have trouble accepting that I want to lose weight, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so those are the two like um, really like nagging things at me,
Yeah.
that feel they're front of mind all the time.
Yeah. Well, we originally, when we were looking at coming together and putting our knowledge, our combined knowledge online, we thought, Your Vegan Family, that's our website. And, we wanted to help people eat a vegan diet that was easy and covered all the nutritional bases without it taking forever, because there are smart ways to eat a plant-based diet and there are not smart ways. And it's so easy to rely on the processed food. You can eat Coca-Cola and Oreos and you're on a vegan diet. Well,
Right.
all
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And, it drives us nuts when we're researching, because people say, okay, well, we did a study about a vegan diet. Well, it's like, what the heck were they eating?
Yeah.
You didn't tell us. And
Yeah. Or
just
like you
because
mentioned earlier, all of the overly processed substitutes, like I feel
yeah,
like crap every time I eat those, to be perfectly honest
I
with you.
can't.
It's
I've eaten
yeah.
vegan for 30 years and I can't eat many of those. I won't. We don't eat them. But
Yeah.
some of those burgers smell more like cat food or animal
I
food
know.
to
And
me
the
than they do
textures.
human
Oh
food.
yeah.
And so there are a
Yeah.
lot, there's a term, junk food vegans now are taking,
Yeah.
if I eat my burger, I eat my chicken nuggets, or I eat my, shrimp, they're taking that out and then putting in this highly processed plant food. And,
Yeah.
whether or not it's better or worse nutritionally than the thing that they took out of their diet is dependent on which study you look at. But I think it's pretty clear that both of them are worse for you from a health perspective than eating a diet across a broad range of fruits and vegetables that's high in grains, that's high in beans, that's high in pulses and legumes. That's all infinitely better than either one of those two things.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in what they've found, again, in the studies that they've done for where people live the longest without compromising their quality of life.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Stacy. I cut you off.
How do you do it when it's dinner time and you have a diverse family? That's a question that we get a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And in our course too, one of the things we do is we help people make a high performance menu. So we give them a month-long menu, and over 6 weeks, they get 25 different recipes, and, plop them in throughout the month so that, at least on these days, I'm eating a plant-based, high performance focused meal.
Mm-hmm.
And because yeah, we would love it if everybody went plant-based and they did it super smart and they covered all their nutritional bases. And, that's a really wonderful pipe dream. It's not going to happen. But if you look at your menu and you go, a couple days this week, we're going to have a plant-based dinner. And one of the easiest ways to have a plant-based dinner with people who are not plant-based is to make a silver bowl meal, we call them, or a casserole or a soup, something that has a lot of ingredients in it, but it doesn't have meat. So we do things like, I think today I'm probably going to make a vegetable bean soup. I'll throw it in the Instant Pot so that it cooks easy and, it's done quickly and all of that. And we almost always have a salad. But, that soup's going to be filled with a couple different kinds of beans. So, we're likely to be getting, if you're looking at protein, about 24 grams of protein in a bowl of soup. And given that, an average amount for a person to have that's recommended is about 50 grams a day. So we know we're covering half our protein in that soup. We're going to get tons of vitamins and minerals. We'll throw in some greens. We'll throw in whatever vegetables we happen to have left in the refrigerator and on the countertop, because we have to go shopping today. So this is a great,
it's the catch-all soup.
Yeah. You're at the end of everything. What can go into a soup? So it's one of those easy things to make. We'll also do like a tabbouleh salad where, wheat bulgur is a base of tabbouleh, a Middle Eastern grain-based salad, but you can use anything. We often use quinoa because quinoa grain is higher in nutrition than some of the other grains. And then we pack it full of chopped fresh vegetables. And it's got, we really like the sour flavor. So we'll put a lot of lemon in it. So that's, one dish. Or what else do we have? Lasagna. He just made lasagna the other day. It's, it's half gone. He makes a huge thing, but it is full of vegetables. It's so highly flavored. And my parents, who are dyed-in-the-wool carnivores, who don't eat a lot of vegetables, peas, carrots, iceberg lettuce is about it. Maybe some asparagus. Love it. So if they like it, anybody can like this. So making those meals where all of the ingredients are mixed in, then they don't look at their plate and go, where's my protein? Where's my meat? It's not there. There's not a hole left on a plate. It's a bowl of mixed flavors and sauces and seasonings and, side dish that could be, bread or your salad or things like that. So that's, and also it's a super great way for little kids, because kids often will pick things out. They'll say, I don't like broccoli. Well, maybe it's been boiled or microwaved and it really doesn't taste very good. But if broccoli is cut up so small that they can't pick it out in every bite, they get some of every ingredient that's in that dish, it starts to train their palates to go, oh, I'm familiar with broccoli, but it's never been pointed out. And so when they start eating a bigger chunk, they're familiar with it subconsciously. They're like, oh, I've had this before and I've liked what I've had it in. And so that's part of how we've raised our boys to eat everything. They clean their plate no matter, what we put on it, from what culture, what vegetable, grain, anything.
Now, Ryan, our 7-year-old for 5 years, I mean, he's only 7, so he's probably been eating solid food for 6 years, says he said he hated mushrooms for
years,
forever. We're like, okay, fine. Well, okay, great. And we put mushrooms in practically, not practically every meal, but we ate mushrooms every week, multiple days per week, and we just cut them up small enough, and he never knew they were even in there.
Or we blended them.
And so, we blended them into a sauce, I don't particularly like mushrooms if they're rubbery and the textures, that they're not cooked properly. But when we finally told him that you've been eating mushrooms for a very long time, and you actually really like these 3 dishes that, have mushrooms in them.
Yeah.
It took him a little while to have the shift mentally, but he was already physically there, obviously. And so, there's strategies that you can use for kids, and we're all kids when it comes right down to it. If you're trying to train your palate to eat differently and to eat more broadly, it's like every other change you're trying to make in your life, or even going vegan. We want quantum change and quantum difference in our life, but I think as human beings, we're not hardwired to make that much change all at once. Incremental change, step by step, is a much better way to go about it. And so, incorporating some of these foods, eating a couple of plant-based meals a week, and, trying to grow from there, aim low, succeed, I guess I would say, instead of trying to go, the full Monty all at once.
Yeah, I really resonated with that as you were talking, Stacy, and made a note of it of, having those planned times of, okay, I know on these days I'm going to get that, I think you called it a high performance meal,
Yeah.
like, and then if there's days in between where it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and I think that in general, that is something that I've really had to work on as far as, that all or nothing mentality. I even had it, and this is not related at all to what you do, but, I was having a conversation with a mom who I said to her, I was like, how do the moms like show up to preschool pickup put together? Like, I want to do that and it doesn't happen. And she's like, well, why do you have to be one or the other? Like, some days you're put together and some days you're a hot mess. Like, it's fine. And I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, I think for me, it comes from wanting results and feeling like I have to go balls to the wall, all in to get it. And it's just not realistic. All right. So talk to me about the B12, and let's like shut down all the people who say that like this is a problem.
I wouldn't call it a problem, but it's something that you need to be aware of if your diet is sourced entirely from plants.
Okay.
So nutritional yeast is your best source of B12 vitamin.
Really?
For a plant-based diet. And that is because the substrate that it's grown on contains B12 most of the time.
Okay.
So we sprinkle it on our soups. We make our favorite popcorn topping is nutritional yeast and paprika and a little bit of cumin. And, so we put it on our popcorn.
All of our pastas. I mean, it's almost like a Parmesan cheese for us.
Yeah.
It has a cheesy flavor.
It's very good. I think it's just poorly named.
Yeah.
Like, I think it has a marketing problem. People
Yeah.
hear that and they're like, ugh. But it's very good, actually.
Some people call it nooch. I don't know if that makes it any better than nutritional yeast, but it's often slangly called nooch.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. Oh my goodness. Okay.
That's your best source. And nori seaweed can have a fair amount, and seaweed snacks are pretty popular these days.
Okay.
And then too, if you're drinking nut milks, if soy milk, almond milk, oat milk in particular, really
Eating
popular
cereals,
right now.
box cereals,
those are oftentimes fortified with B vitamins because not only plant-based eaters, but all of us, need B vitamins. And, depending, most people don't eat across a broad range of anything, even if they're a carnivore or omnivore or, they're solely eating plants. And so we all need to be conscious of where our vitamins are coming from.
Yeah. And, that is one vitamin that we choose to take as a supplement. And the problem with a supplement is B vitamins are best absorbed in small doses throughout the day. If we put a big bunch in, our body is just going to dump most of it.
Okay.
So, if you do take a supplement, that is one we choose to take. We want to make sure we're getting enough B vitamins. We want to make sure our kids are. And when we have had our blood drawn to have, because we think we're doing the right thing, we really try to have a good diet, but, we want to check ourselves. We don't want to live a delusional life. So we go in and we have our blood drawn, and our boys, we had their blood drawn too, just to go, are we on track?
Is it working?
Is it working? It's working.
Yeah.
Our iron is not low. Our B vitamins are not low. Our calcium, magnesium, nothing's low. Our cholesterol's not too high. Like, it's working. And, that's data from a kid who's 7 to a man who's 53. So, we have a wide range, and we're all, as we share meals. So we're eating the same thing together. And it does work.
Yeah.
So we do choose to supplement our B12. We also, certain times of the year, because it can be pretty gray and dreary here in the Northwest, we will do some vitamin D. But vitamin D tip for people who are plant-based is if you take your mushrooms and you cut them up and you lay them in the sun, their vitamin D content skyrockets. They take the sunlight, as our skin will take sunlight in and produce vitamin D. Mushrooms will do it too. So if you set them in the sun for a while, you'll increase the vitamin D content and give yourself a nice boost.
Okay. All right. Now talk to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. What's the question?
No, go ahead.
The other thing that is so important, vital for mental, emotional health, and is important to be aware of with a plant-based diet are the omega-3 fatty acids. We hear about these good fats, the omega-3s. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go cod liver oil. My fish oil is a great source. And it is a source for sure, but environmentally from the sea, there is algal oil. And it's that is an extract of omega-3 fatty acids that has a much smaller footprint. It doesn't smell or taste fishy in any way. So it's
say it again. What is it called? Say it again.
Algal by algae, ALGAL, sorry, algal.
Okay.
And chia seeds are also very high in omega-3s. Let me see. I have a little list.
Have you seen this trend on social media with the internal shower drink? It's basically just like chia seeds and lemon juice and water, and people are like losing their minds over it.
Oh my word. These things crack me up.
Is it worth it? Should we do it? Should I be having
people? Woo!
Yeah, there's like 20-year-olds like losing their mind over this internal shower.
Oh yeah. I
like the name.
Yeah. All right, so I should try it
in a workshop, which is just drink water, front load your day, to have a morning shower, but an internal one with your hydration. But chia seeds are really high in omega-3 fatty acids. So are Brussels sprouts, hemp seeds, walnuts, and flax seeds.
Okay. All right. And go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're going to pick two very simple supplements to add to so many things, chia seeds and flax seeds should be some that are amongst the top of your list. And you can add them to cereals. You can add them to smoothies. You can add them to so many things. And they're really packed. They're tiny and packed, nutrient dense.
Okay. All right. And what are your thoughts on, the aspect of weight with all of this? Because I can tell you without a doubt that as much as that documentary is what like made like my mind blow, just like, whoa, this is all new information. I also thought in my twisted diet culture mind that in switching to a vegan diet that I would lose weight, and I did not. So, and I don't know, like what came to mind for you, if anything, as I was sharing like what my challenge is right now.
Well,
that.
Right. And again,
just a casual on the spot question. It's fine.
Vegan diet, I don't know specifically what your diet was. And a vegan diet is not necessarily low calorie.
Right.
So here's, if someone's looking for, how do I focus, have a 95% plant-based diet that helps me normalize my weight, because we believe when you're eating the right things, your weight normalizes, whether that's coming down, going up, and everybody is unique. And so there is some variation, but in terms of a blanket thing that you can do is you can make a list of the things that you want to make sure you're eating. And, on our website, we have a 5-day challenge that guides you through this. And it's free. We'd love to share it with people. But basically the idea is like, if you know that you want to eat 4 different fruits every day, write that down, make sure you get them. What are your favorite vegetables that you want to include every day? What's a whole grain you want every day? What's a protein source? Pick a bean, please pick a bean. And where do you want to get your fats? What nuts or seeds are you going to add? If you look at those things right there and you have a list of what you want to eat every day, eat those first. Make sure they get in and fit everything else around them, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. And I want to ask you too, a lot of just going back to the conversation that I was having this morning with my husband, a lot of where I'm struggling with the aspect of weight and eating and all of this is so tied to my hormones and my cycle. So I can almost track, almost to the day when all of a sudden I'm going to not care what I eat, and I'm going to not care to do anything outside of survival. And it's something I'm working on with my therapist and my psychiatrist and all of the people, but it is like, last night, all I wanted for dinner was like mashed potatoes. And I'm like, you know what? That's not going to help me feel better though. Like, I don't, it's hard. Like, I feel like I don't get into these. My cycle creates an imbalance of something that makes it such that the person I was a day before, eating things I want to eat, doing things I want to do, moving my body, getting outside, socializing, all of a sudden it's like all of that shuts off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do about it.
That's a complex question. And, I'm an acupuncturist by degree. I have my master's in acupuncture, and I work with a lot of people about hormonal balance. And, I can totally relate. My cycles were not the favorite part of my life. And now I'm past that. Now I have hot flashes.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun being us, isn't it?
So, I understand that hormones can just lead you around by the nose sometimes.
Yes.
And, I think that this topic is vast, and, there's nothing that we're going to say in a few minutes that's going to be the answer for you. But I can say that when you do eat across a broad variety of fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds, that you will generate a balance of health that will help moderate everything else that's off balance.
Okay.
So a lot of people think, I want to eat to balance my hormones. I want to eat for cardiovascular health. I want to eat to lose weight. I want to eat to enhance my mind. Well, actually, when it comes down to it, at the base of all of that is exactly what we're talking about. Simply getting in your daily dose of these delicious plant-based foods, the beans, the nuts and seeds, the fruits, the vegetables. Get those in, and you will have balanced out 80% of what ails you. And I know that, we come up against these things where there's hormones, or there's like a really hard thing that happened, and we get triggered, and we're back in, survival mode because our amygdala is activated and we're acting from our emotions or our history or our trauma patterns. And those things happen for sure. But if you have cultured on those days when it's easy for you to, these habits of going, this is what I'm going to eat every day. Every day I'm going to get up, I'm going to have a smoothie at 10, and here's what I'm throwing in it. Some of those things, if you just have those threads of consistent routine that your healthy mind chooses, and that when you're not feeling up to it, it's just like, God, I'm going to crawl out of bed, but I am going to turn on that blender. That is the one thing I'm going to do today. Those threads of healthy routines will carry you through those times. And mashed potatoes are great.
So I was just going to say, in your example, self-acceptance and non-judgment, right? Okay, so I'm in the mood for mashed potatoes. Well, if you could gut it out, pun intended, and put some black beans on top of those potatoes and maybe sprinkle a little bit of cilantro, now you've changed the nutritional value dramatically, and you're still eating your mashed potatoes, right? And the other thing to remember too is that, for that 3 or 4 or 5 days, however long it is for each of the individuals, that your habitual pattern is going to be different from what you would like it to be. It's good to remember that for the other 27 days in the month, you're fully empowered and not being led around by the nose, to use Stacy's analogy. And if you're making positive choices during those days, if 80% of what you're eating is in a healthy pattern, then, falling off the wagon, if you will, for a little bit, or making some choices that you wouldn't normally make is not such a big deal, because you've already mitigated it by having the majority of what you do be something that promotes your health and well-being. And so, we all, I think when we're driven people who want to make a difference and who want to be successful, the hardest people that we're going to be on are ourselves, and being able to not judge ourselves and accept ourselves for where we are in that moment and say, okay, I know I don't want something good. How can I make it just a little bit better? So if your mashed potatoes, maybe add chia seeds and flax seeds. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But if you can add one thing that just increases the nutritional value just a little bit, and to remember that, geez, the whole week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to this, I really put an effort in to take care of myself. It's going to be okay if I eat 3 chocolate bars for dinner tonight.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that. And I really resonate with, okay, add one thing, to, like you said, the beans or cilantro or something just to change it up and make it more nutritionally valuable. I do want to say, just for my listeners who have been on this journey with me, that the most frustrating part for me, however, in all of this is that it's like 10 days. It's like a week to 10 days.
So
And
it's
so
that whole
it
half the cycle.
starts, it starts to feel like half my month is, it's like, who is this person? They're like two very different people existing throughout the first half of the month and the second half of the month. So it's not something I'm expecting you to solve in this moment. I don't even know, but it's, it's, but I do think that it makes a lot of sense that even if it is 2 weeks of one person, that one person is feeling very confident and secure and fulfilled with her diet, and what she's putting in her body. So
and that person can do some meal prep. So when the other person comes on board,
that crazy lady,
look in the fridge and, hey, look, I've prepared, here's a soup, here's a lasagna, here's a polenta pie casserole, that you have stocked, and maybe, chop some things up that are your snacks for the day, and they're in a bag or in a jar. And making things simple. People think, oh my God, I have to clean and chop all this produce in order to be able to eat it all. Frozen is okay too. You can buy chopped frozen fruits and vegetables that make smoothies, that make soups or stir fries, or, other things easy to do on those days when it feels so much harder.
Yeah.
And to go back to something you brought up earlier too, there are households, and they're hard for us to imagine because our kids have been vegan since conception, and we've eaten the same way all the time. And so that's a blessing for us for sure, but we're super empathetic and sensitive to people that, have different diets within an individual household. Well, if you have your cabinet in the pantry, that's your food, or your shelf in the refrigerator, that's your food, that can make it easier for you to, source the things that you want and source the things that you need. And if you find that your eating patterns change during your cycle or not during your cycle, well, maybe you have a cabinet, part of the cabinet or a shelf or part of the refrigerator that when you're going to become that person that I'm going to maybe make my own words, and I don't mean to offend you, but is making choices that you don't want to make.
Right.
Make the choices as easy as possible. So all I know, even if I'm blindfolded, I'm going to open this cabinet and I'm only going to eat things, that are from here and from here. Because I know that I'm going to go for something that I really don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I even think, I could do that with the apples. It's like, I'm picturing like just a clear refrigerator bin that's just mine. I put like 4 apples in there, and then the rest are the kids. Like, I don't know why, but my brain wants to compartmentalize.
We don't have to know why, we just have to know what, and then we just have to deal with it. And so these are my apples, these are your apples.
Don't touch my apples. Oh my gosh, that's funny. But that is right up my alley. I could get down with that. All right, I need some bins or a shelf, like you said, just a shelf. Yeah, there's a shelf that is mine.
Yeah.
I'm
the other part, I want to share a little tidbit about potatoes and rice. You cook them, and they're carbohydrate rich, but once they cool down, and especially if you wait till the next day, the carbohydrates in them develop into something called resistant starch. Resistant starch is part of that prebiotic that the bacteria in your gut love, and it helps maintain your blood sugar levels in a more even way as well. Okay. So leftover rice, leftover potato, or at least that it's cooled and then you eat it, like potato salad, that you've cooked and it's cooled and you eat it later. That gives you the resistant starch. So just leftover potatoes are even a bonus over freshly cooked potatoes.
Okay. And real quick for me, probiotic versus prebiotic. Say it for me again.
Probiotic is the fiber. It's what you feed the bacteria that help them flourish.
Okay.
Prebiotic. Oh no, I've confused everybody. It's
okay.
first. It's
Pre is first. Okay, pre is first. Yes. Okay.
Pre is first. Probiotic are like kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, the fermented foods, or what you get in a little bottle at the store that has the bacteria in it. So probiotics, you're putting bacteria in. Prebiotics, you're first feeding the bacteria what makes them happy, healthy, and proliferate to support you to be the best you possible, given that they run the show.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. All right. And I'm coming to time now, but is there anything in particular, given my platform, given, anything that I've talked about that is just on your heart, on your minds, that you feel like you want to get in here, this conversation, or that I didn't think to ask you? I mean, honestly, I have an entire page that we didn't even get to. So perhaps there's a part 2, but based on what we have talked about, anything that you want to say, share, elaborate on?
I'd like to share a little visual image. And that is that, your biology is part of what drives your mental, emotional health. Yeah. And it can go both ways. But, if you look at your life as a car, no matter how you're working on the mental, emotional components, how much therapy you go to, how many affirmations you have, how you rub and take care of your car, if it has a flat tire, if the physical car or your physical biology has something that's not right, the car is not going to go.
Yeah.
And so addressing your nutrition is a big part of your physical biology. So sometimes you try so hard and you're working on your mental, emotional state, and you're doing everything that you can, and you just don't feel like you're making progress. Mm-hmm. It may be that your physical being, your car, has an issue, and you just need to take care and make sure that it's getting the nutrition that it needs, that the bacteria are being taken care of. You have to take care of the physical car so that you can go everywhere you want. Take care of the body so that you can feel and the way that you want, feel and function the way you want. So if it's hard, if you're struggling with that mental, emotional part, it might not be your fault at all. Mm-hmm. But, so focus on the biology, focus on the physical health of your being, and at least you've optimized that part of your life so that any emotional, mental things that are challenging or that you're really working through, they're in that mental, emotional realm. They're not sourced physically and frustrating you anymore.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes if you are not finding the answers that you're looking for, you need to evaluate the questions that you're asking. And one of the things that I admire about you, and I admire about your process, and I admire about the time that we're here together, is you are eager and keen to ask the questions and to learn. Whether or not we actualize that on any given day depends on how we feel and what we need to do for the kids and how our relationship with our partner is going and all the rest of it. But to be open and to be asking the questions and to be looking for those answers is really important to finding them. It sounds like a stupidly obvious thing to say. I think a lot of people don't ask those questions. They're much happier to sit in their misery and hope that things will change. Well, hope's very important, but we drive hope. And so I admire what you're up to. Keep going.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And, I think that for me, just using your analogy of the car, it's it's wanting the car to go faster. So it's like, I can see where the work on my mental health, whether that is with my therapist or through conversations like this, or reading books and consuming content, and then putting that into practice, right? Implementing what I've learned. If I couldn't have had this conversation a year ago, I wouldn't be here with a podcast 2 years ago, because I wouldn't have been able to mentally do it. So I can see the progress and the growth. I think that, I don't know, whether a product of my millennialism or just the world today, it's like, I just want it faster. I want all of the things. I want all of the outcome faster. And the physical body, my son, my younger, was born 2 years ago, and 2 years in the grand scheme is not a lot of time, but 2 years of being in a body that I don't know and recognize is a long time. Like, it's every day, and I'm getting better. Again, I wouldn't even be on video with you a little while ago. So it's like these little steps that I'm like, is it the biology? Is it the body that's going to get me in a Ferrari instead of like my
Yeah.
my hunky-dunk car trucking along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I feel like that's, a whole nother conversation.
I know. Yeah, I know.
but a
And-
quick part of that car analogy is if you want the car to go faster and you're going to use that car to go on family vacation for a week, okay, well, you're going to leave your house in the car with your family, and let's say that we're going to go to Long Beach Island. And so we're going to go to LBI and we're going to have fun at the beach for a week, right? But we're going to try to get there as fast as we possibly can. And then we're going to drive back as fast as we possibly can. And we're going to end up right back where we started. And so if your goal really was to go fast, you may as well not even leave home, because you're just going back to the same place anyway, right? And so
Markus, that was good. That was good.
The ride along the way. I mean, maybe there's times when we need to go fast.
Yeah.
But we want to stay present moment as much as we can and enjoy the moments that we're stringing together, because the car is really just our life, right? And so we come in naked and alone, we leave naked and alone. If you try to go as fast as possible, well, that's one way of doing it, but you're going to miss a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And so, that self-love, that self-acceptance, understanding where you are and being grateful for where you are. Gratitude is really, really important. And Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist, done lots of work photographing water crystals and snowflakes and exposing them to words and monks and all kinds of things. In his work has found that, to produce kind of optimal health, well-being, and beauty, we need 2 parts of gratitude to every 1 part of love, just like H2O, 2 parts of hydrogen to 1 part of oxygen. And that gratitude is really important for everybody, but self-gratitude, I think, is something that's hard for all of us.
Yeah.
So being grateful for where you are, good thing to do.
All right, you're gonna get me emotional now. All right. Well, I do think if you're up for it, I would like to do this again, because like I said, I got a lot that we didn't get to, and I'm sure there's a lot on your end that you could have elaborated on further and dive deeper. So anyway, in the meantime, I do so appreciate your time. I have 2 pages of my own notes from this conversation. So I thank you both so much, and for the work you're doing.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you. All right, so I have to start with of all the things that they shared that were amazing, the one thing that really blew my mind and that is changing my life was the idea to make a shelf or a compartment or a drawer in my refrigerator solely mine. I don't know why or how I compartmentalize food in our house this way, but keeping a drawer that is mine to pull from has really helped me eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm also so reminded of their words whenever I am at the grocery store. Rather than change what I'm buying, enhance it. Pick another color to add in this week. And I'm finding those simple tweaks so much easier to do, and I feel better about my choices. Also, I know it's more expensive, so I don't do it every week, but I've actually started buying fruit and vegetable platters. The ones you'd normally buy to bring over someone's house for a barbecue, but like just for me in my house. The effort to wash and cut up fruits and vegetables is sometimes enough to make me not do it in this season of my life. So these platters are helping me so much, and the kids get a kick out of it too. When I don't buy the pre-cut trays, I will use what looks like the exact tray that you're picturing in your mind, but a reusable version that I bought at the dollar store, and bring it outside with us so we can snack throughout the morning. And I'm making this sound really nice and pretty. This doesn't happen all the time, but when I'm feeling it, it happens. And here's a hack that I saw on TikTok. Use the plastic top of the tray, or if it doesn't come with one, do like I did and buy 2 of the trays from the dollar store and put ice in the bottom one and food in the top one to keep it cold. Yeah, just little things that I've tweaked since having this conversation with Stacy and Markus. So anyway, the other big takeaway here that I want to drive home is really keep it simple. You don't have to become a vegan overnight. Trust me, I tried it and it's very difficult. But I do love the idea of scheduling a few meals or days a week that are plant-based and enhancing what we're already eating to include more gut healthy foods. This feels really doable to me. Take what you want from this conversation, leave the rest. Look forward to hearing more from Stacy and Markus on episodes to come. Let me know what you think. That's all I've got for now. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sass Says is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. This podcast is meant to be educational and not meant to replace professional therapy or professional medical attention. To learn more about today's show and what's new in my world, head over to sasssays.com. Thanks so much. Talk later.